Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Rajanya Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Rajanya Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjanya Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjanya Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Kopijana Vallabha Jayakiri Varadari Jayagiri Varadari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjanya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjanya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjanya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjanya Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Jayakiri Varadari Jayagiri Varadari Gopijana Vallabha Jayakiri Varadari Jayagiri Varadari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjanya Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjanya Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjanya Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha, Govinda Radha, Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radha, Govinda Radha, Govinda Radhe. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Privajagacharya Astotar Tata Shri Shri Mad Ityalila Pravista His Divine Grace Lives Arvinda Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj Isvan Founder Acharya Jagat Guru Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Amala Purana Paramahamsa Samhita Grantha Raja Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Govinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari. All glories to you, assembled devotees. All glories to you, assembled devotees. All glories to you, assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Guranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. I'm looking this way and you're all this way. So everybody go this way. And then I have less chance of getting a crick in my neck. You can do it. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Pareshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 19, entitled Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. Text 18. Sarva Ashraman Upadaya Svaramena Kalatravan Vyasanar Navam Atyeti Jala Yaner Yatarnavam Sarvashramanupādaya Svashramena Kalatravan Vyasanarnavan Atyeti Jalayaner Yataravan Sarvashramanupādaya Svashramena Kalatravan Vyasanara Navam Atyeti Jalayaner Yatarnavam Sarvashramanupādaya Svashramena Kalatravan Vyasanarnavam Atyeti Jalayaner Yatarnavam. Matajis. Sarva, all, ashraman, social orders, upadaya, completing, sva, own, ashramena, by the social orders, kalatra van, a person living with a wife, vyasana arnavam, the dangerous ocean of material existence. Atyati, one can cross over. Jala yanai, with sea-going vessels. Yata, as. Arnavam, the ocean. Translation. As one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. Please repeat. As one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. Purport by His Divine Grace, ISKCON's founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There are 4 social orders for cooperation in the endeavor for liberation from material existence. The orders of brahmacharya, or pious student life, household life with a wife, retired life, and renounced life all depend for successful advancement on the householder who lives with a wife. This cooperation is essential for the proper functioning of the institution of the 4 social orders and 4 spiritual orders of life. This Vedic Varnashram system is generally known as the caste system. The man who lives with a wife has a great responsibility in maintaining the members of the other social orders, the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. Except For the grihastas, or the householders, everyone is supposed to engage in the spiritual advancement of life, and therefore the brahmachari, the vanaprastha, and the sannyasi have very little time to earn a livelihood. They therefore collect alms from the grihastas, and thus they secure the bare necessities of life and cultivate spiritual understanding. By helping the other three sections of society cultivate spiritual values, the householder also makes advancement in spiritual life. Ultimately, every member of society automatically becomes spiritually advanced and easily crosses the ocean of nescience. A lot of devotees are in the kitchen. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umlitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Dena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sva Vadanti Gam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Dam Sajivam Sadvaidam Savadudam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vidamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Dibyad Brindaranya Kalpajumada Srimad Ratnagara Singasanasto Srimad Radha Shilagovinda Devo Prastalabi Savyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Bamsi Bhattitasti Taha Karshan Venu Svanar Gopir Gopinatha Sriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpajubhyas cha Kripasindubhyeva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is an inconceivable genius in how he balances or makes for many, many multi-dimensional what is this outside talking? Realities come to be true. So, ultimate reality, and why did Srila Prabhupada have us for every beginning Bhagavatam class? Why is this young man on a cell phone? Huh? Does he have to do that? There's only so few people, where is everyone? Jai Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopi Janavalava, Giri Varidhari. Why are we chanting this before Srimad Bhagavatam class, which is meant to be a systematic promotion? If one reads sincerely, progressively through each canto, one will ultimately be a completely God-realized soul after his completion of reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, so much so that he will be able to defend the conception of Godhead against the onslaught of atheists. That the reality is that the exchange of love between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his internal energy, internal potency, Mool Prakriti, Srimati Radharani, ultimately, Krishna's unlimited incarnations and avatars have corresponding Sri Rupam expansions of internal energy perfectly suited to augment and complement his mood and offer the most perfect form of love, so much desired and for the happiness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that particular incarnation. And that reciprocation reaches its supreme position in Goloka Vrindavan, the planet of Radha and Krishna, where exchanges of love are on the highest pinnacle of words can't even explain reality. So the living entity, when he gives up the desire or becomes envious of that reality and wants to imitate that reality, then the material world is created, which is primarily based upon attraction between male and female. Lord Rishabdev teaches his sons. This is the basic principle of material existence. In animal society, there's no regulation. Actually, it's regulated by stringent laws of material nature. There's different mating seasons. There's certain numbers of offspring that can be produced. In certain species of life, it's completely abominable and hellish, like the hog, mother, sister, daughter, no discrimination. So the human species of life is the most important form of life, because only in the human form of life can one actually break this terrible implication in the modes of material nature, and with good mind and good intelligence and good senses be free to make the right ascertainment of what is this life, what is the value of this life. Artada, this human form of life, is meant to deliver value, and proceed in a orderly and systematic way to ultimately achieve not just liberation from the cycle of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age, but ultimately regain one's position all the way back home, back to Godhead, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, especially and specifically that is given in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. The subsequent devotees of Lord Chaitanya showed expert dexterity in this regard, and by their exegeous, is that the word, activities, the entire human society can be brought into order for a progressive life of spiritual advancement. So, Chatur Varna Mayashristam Guna Karma Vibhagasha, this Varnashram system, the four orders of spiritual life and the four orders of social life, are created by me, Krishna says. So it's very, very scientific. So this is a very interesting section here where Kasyapa Muni is praising his wife, Diti, and a series of verses, how valuable it is, married life, and particularly the husband's, how the husband should see how important is his wife and respect her accordingly. And Prabhupada's purports paralleling each statement, this is the second, are to the point and are appropriate. Now, because what Kasyapa is being obliged to do, which is ultimately untimely, and is making him compromised in his position of mind and sense control, ultimately he's offering his obeisances to worshipful fate, and the ultimate issue. So we'll see in Verse 21, for example. O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done, even if we worked for our entire life or even after death. To repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. So much praise will save the purport in its entirety for when it comes up in a few days. Such extraordinary praises by a husband for his wife are certainly in the mode of joking. So we have to see everything in proper context and weigh and judge everything based on understanding what is the ultimate, most desired ultimate outcome and how that will be achieved in stages over time. And you also have to take into account how strong or sincere are you in your desire to achieve ultimate perfection. How honest are you in understanding that without, making some argument or rationalization or sophistry, to rationalize your, what's going on in the material world is causeless unwillingness to surrender to Krishna. That's why we're here. By desire, we come into this material world. By desire, we stay in this material world. And by desire, turned around and pointed in the right way, we get out of this material world. So what do you want? Ultimately, if Ye Prashade Pure Sarva Asha, by one is lifted to the supreme perfection, the supreme position, thus perfecting the focus of one's desire. Ye Prashad, this is the perfection of all desire. So indeed it is possible. So ultimately, Krishna himself doesn't interfere with the independence of any living entity because love is based on free will and free giving. So ultimately, we can't blame anyone else for our lack of Krishna consciousness. It's our duty and our responsibility. Even in the best association, we have to fly our own plane. No one can flap your wings for you. They're busy flapping their own wings. Flapping the wings must be done, otherwise you'll fall out of the sky. So that is why this material, sky or ocean, everyone has to swim, continuously swim. No one can help you. Mercy for the earnest only. All right, can't find it, but from my memory. So a person fell in the well and was crying for rescue. So a good Samaritan came by, saw the situation, and went and got a long, long rope, long, deep well, maybe 4 or 5 stories down, 40, 50 feet, and lowered the rope down. And then the person said, "Oh, could you come down and help me to wrap my fingers around the rope?" So the purport is that the spiritual master, Krishna, he sent his pure devotee, disciplinate succession, and given us all good instruction and infallible rope, and we're so insincere that we're too weak-minded to hold on to the rope, even though it's right in front of us. Who do we have to blame except ourselves? So, this material world is a deep well that we've fallen into. And to, almost like if you're like rescued from undersea, deep undersea, you have to be taken out gradually, otherwise you'll get the bends, your brain will burst because of the oxygen, lack of oxygen, and et cetera, et cetera. So, but then again, it's as gradual as we want to make it. But the general course for most people is to go through the various stages. There's brahmacharya life, there's grihastha life, there's vanaprastha life. Not that one stays in grihastha life all the way. There's retired life, and there's sannyas life. If not formally, or if the situation or the societal structure doesn't facilitate such smooth changing by external recognition, then there's nothing to lament, because everything is internal, and Krishna is the Lord of and the perfect knower of what's actually going on, and his pure devotee. Someone suggested to Srila Prabhupada, if someone is awarded Brahmin initiation and then they go away and fall down and they come back, they shouldn't take that up right away. When they come back, they should be relegated to the position of a Sudra. And, it's a mental concoction on the part of this young disciple suggesting this to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said, that is not for you to judge who is guilty or who is not. And then again, the purifying potency of bhakti yoga, Prabhupada writes in the Nectar Devotion, there's no need for prayaschitta. Simply taking up devotional service, again, reinstates one. And the best way to ascertain your best sincerity and maintain it strongly throughout the entire course of your life is to dedicate yourself to the mission of the spiritual master, which is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When this age of Kali is a very special mission, because it's not just giving people salvation or ordinary religious life, but it's giving Braja Prema Bhakti, which is the supreme goal. So within that divine dispensation is very great potency. Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sharvat Shaktis. You have invested some, 50%, you've invested all of your transcendental potencies in the chanting of the holy names, which is the via medium. It is the overall method by which Braja Prema Bhakti is being distributed in this world. Hence the importance of non-stop propagation of the holy name of the Lord. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time in nicely hearing and chanting the Lord's divine name. Hence, Srila Prabhupada wanted 24-hour kirtan, at least in Vrindavan and Mayapur, and ultimately in every center of his movement, there should be 24-hour kirtan. Why is it so difficult to achieve this or to maintain this? Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yagnai Sankatana Prayarya Jantihi Sumedhasaha. Only those with the most finely evolved spiritual intelligence can understand the value of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. It's an open secret, it's free. Yet how is this Braja Prema Bhakti protected? Because only a very few will actually be able to, by great mercy, by great sincerity, actually understand its importance and actually do it. And we see that those who do, they leave a mark on human society and Vaishnava society that is so profound that not just for the time that they're present on this planet, but it creates this powerful attraction that lasts forever. Because ultimately, everyone will at least have a particular degree of sincerity. Prabhupada says in one place that this Krishna consciousness movement is giving everyone the opportunity to engage in devotional service, at least for some time. So by karma, by misuse of free will, by being tested through the fire of ordeal. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in one of his last words, Lord Chaitanya puts his devotees in various trying and difficult situations and circumstances to test their resolve. Their success depends upon their good fortune. So we might seemingly not do very good with the test or in the particular situation, or we might need some time to work it out or figure it out. Devotees who have been around for a while and have seen the course of things, they have a greater degree to be able to be, what is it? How does Prabhupada say it? He says they can become liberal in their social dealings. Because they can understand many things are going on, and ultimately Krishna's desire for us, especially for the initiated devotee, everyone, but for one who's actually come forward, Krishna will never let you go. He wants us to go back home, back to Godhead, more than we could even want to go back to Godhead in our best consciousness, in our best situation. So he's making all arrangements. So how does Varnashram work within a movement of Braja Prema Bhakti and pure devotional service? It's like, even Srila Prabhupada himself, he was how to do this. He was joking with one of his leading devotees. All women should be married and all men should stay brahmachari. It's an impossible proposal. This cooperation is essential for the proper functioning of the institution of the 4 social orders and 4 spiritual orders of life. The Vedic Varnashram system, generally known as the caste system, the man who lives with a wife has a great responsibility. So here it is. Oh, I'm agitated, Prabhu. I think I should get married. Wrong reason to get married. Getting married means to increase your devotional service. Excuse me. And to accept a very serious responsibility to your wife and what to speak it to the children, who must be brought up in a well-balanced home where the husband and wife are together. No divorce, no fighting, no bitching and moaning. No, I like this one better, I'm going to run off with this one. None of that. It psychologically damages the children. Prabhupada says in one of the purports coming up, marriage is actually a duty, this isn't tomorrow's verse, performed in mutual cooperation as directed in the authoritative scriptures for spiritual advancement. Therefore, marriage is essential in order to avoid the life of cats and dogs. And Dave Amrita Maharaj giving class here last week, it was the graph that arranged and carefully selected marriages. They start off like slow or on a low level, but then over time they get stronger and stronger. Whereas those that, hey, let's get together, baby. You look good. Start off high, and then it just, I think the longest it might last would be like 7 years, and then I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't want to see your face no more, you know. When the wife is accepted as a sense gratificatory agency, personal beauty is the main consideration. And as soon as there's a break in personal sense gratification, there is disruption or divorce. Trade such and such in for a younger model, you know. Got an old car, 2005, 17, 18 years old, 200,000 miles, trying to get a new one. But when husband and wife aim at spiritual advancement by mutual cooperation, there is no consideration of personal beauty or external beauty. Actually, duty, responsibility, dedication to pleasing the personality of Godhead, that is real beauty. It's called the Sadhu Bhushana, the ornament of the saintly person. No consideration of personal beauty or the disruption of so-called love. In the material world, there's no question of love. Marriage is actually a duty. So on that basis, then what Kasyapa Muni is saying in these verses, how the wife helps the husband by being protected from lusty desires and so many other women that he has to see. He can keep his desires under control because he knows he's got a duty, he's got responsibility. And similarly, the wife. So Prabhupada says that the boys' training is brahmacharya, and the girls' training is chastity. So the seeming imitation of Radha and Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, because it's harnessed in duty, Krishna fulfills our desire to have a wife or a husband, but what happens is one becomes purified of the bodily conception of life. And not within Krishna's system of varnashram, then what happens, you see like these rich people, they're having young women. The Prabhupada said he's 80 years old and he's going into the club. How long does sex life last? Up to the point of death. Emperor Akbar, I don't believe it. I'll prove it to you in due course of time. A little while later, we know the story, right? There's the minister comes to Akbar, come with me right now and bring your 16-year-old daughter, the princess. Okay, it's a very intelligent minister, I won't ask him. Okay, here we go. My dear king, I want you to observe, when we come into the room with your daughter right behind you, I want you to observe the face of the dying man. The dying man, here's the king, is coming to give audience to his citizen. He completely ignores the king and just looks at the face of the young 16-year-old girl. Now, do you understand? That is a result of no Krishna consciousness. The man who lives with a wife has a great responsibility in maintaining the members of the other social orders, brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasis. Except for the grihastas or the householders, everyone is supposed to engage in the spiritual advancement of life, and therefore the brahmachari, the vanaprastha, and sannyasi have very little time to earn a livelihood. So the brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi should not exploit this. Come, I want you to meet a very wonderful sadhu. He's set up an ashram in Ultadungi. No, I don't want to see all of these sannyasis. My father would bring 3 or 4 of them every day for lunch. They were simply no more than beggars, most of them. When everyone else put on their work clothes to go to work, they would put on a sannyas dress and go and beg money, and then we'd just see them having girlfriends and smoking beedies. I don't want any. No, this one is different. It's Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, you must meet him. And of course, the rest is glorious history, that he was dragged by his friend against his will, Srila Prabhupada. So everyone has a responsibility. And if everyone does their responsibility, then everything runs smoothly. A faithful wife and spiritually trained brahmachari are a good combination for the advancement of human mission. Hare Krishna. So once again, the goal is to become completely purified of the bodily conception of life and realize one's eternal spiritual identity, which is lying dormant in everyone's heart, and have the fully aroused intelligence and feelings of such a pure devotee, and to distribute that. And Lord Chaitanya's method is so wonderful that the method to achieve that is to distribute it simultaneously. The more they gave out, the more the stock increased. 1 minus 1 in the material world is 0. But 1 minus 1 in the spiritual world is 2. Such a nice movement. Hare Krishna. As one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna. Yes. Oh, there's no mic? Oh, just talk loudly. Or you can come up here and make your question in the microphone.
Okay, so it says, except for the grihastas, everyone is supposed to engage in spiritual life, and therefore the brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi have very little time to earn a livelihood. They therefore collect alms from the grihastas and thus secure the bare necessities of life. But that seems unfair on the grihastas, right? Why do they have to support everyone?
You want to answer that?
Okay, I'll tell something that Radhanath Swami said. He was giving a talk to a bunch of accountants from some accounting school, and someone asked the question like, "If everyone became a monk like you, then the world would stop working." And then he thought for a second, and he's like, "Well, if everyone became accountant like you, then the world will stop working." So the point is that you need both. If you don't have the spiritual life, then the world becomes useless. If you don't have the material thing going, then
I think what Prabhupada is saying here, everyone except for the grihastas, everyone is supposed to engage in the spiritual advancement of life. That means that the grihasta will be more engaged in earning a livelihood, which will make it more difficult to directly hearing and chanting and preaching and just worshiping the deity. And so therefore, Prabhupada wanted that we try as far as possible to create our own environment where we don't have to work for some demoniac corporation or boss or whatever, but if we have our own communities, and Prabhupada wanted the grihastas to live off the land, cow and bull, farming, agriculture, make our own products, and not just money, but trade, the barter system. And so those types of activities, that's spiritual cultivation as well. And especially it's the crying need of the hour to actually be able to live like that, and what to speak of teach and demonstrate that to others. So in that sense, the grihastas are, it's even a more powerful preaching example. Most people, they just will never be able to comprehend, the renounced person. They're like, they would taunt devotees on the street. You're going to regret this when you're 40 years old, get a job, and so we have to read into this a little more, that actually exemplary grihasta couples and their family, they're doing very valuable preaching just by their example. What is preaching? Is preaching just talking some words? It's actually, what is it? Some preach very nicely but don't behave well. Others behave well but don't preach very nicely. You, Haridas Thakur, perform both duties to your propagation of the holy name. Therefore, you're the greatest of devotees.
Hatsuruba just sent that thing where your Prabhupada saying, like, I think it was 2 days ago, your children are your deities. You remember
Right.
that?
Has everyone listened to Siddhanta Prabhupada memories? So when you hear some of the ladies and they're talking about how Prabhupada encouraged them, with their newborn children, their young children, and it was the perfection of my life. I was just hearing Kusha Devi Dasi. She was in Los Angeles, and her son was, I don't know, like maybe able to walk a year and a half years old, 18 months, and Prabhupada gave him a cookie, and what did she say that Prabhupada, he was served Charanamrita, and then he was poured water to wash his hands, and he took that water that he just washed in and sprinkled it on her son's head. And she said, that was the perfection of my life. In other words, that, it's very common that how much Prabhupada put importance on the children. I forget, this is the last thing I'll say. I forget whose memory this was. Her service was to make the cookies for distribution in Los Angeles. So Prabhupada was coming one time, and the temple leaders, Prabhupada is not feeling well, and there won't be any guru puja or class. Everyone should be very, very quiet. And, her service was to make the cookies, and she mentioned to the temple authorities, well, what about the cookies? And they kind of like chastised her, saying, did you just hear what we said? Cookies. She was very, very upset. So she, was telling this to her husband, and the husband told her, well, you know what? You just make the cookies anyway, and then you can offer them to a picture of Prabhupada and distribute them to all the children. Of course, the children were expecting to have the cookies. So Prabhupada, he comes down to greet the deities by complete surprise, because the temple authorities told everybody nothing doing. And then everybody's scrambling and running from all directions. And Prabhupada's very weak. They actually have to be assisted to pay obeisances and so okay, just all see the deities and go. No, there must be Guru Puja. Okay, and they put Prabhupada on the Vyasa, and everybody scrambles, says Guru Puja. Okay, the Guru Puja is over. Now we'll bring Prabhupada back to the room. No, I have to distribute the cookies to the children. Where are the cookies? And then the Mataji was, wow! And then she brought all the cookies, and the temple authorities are like, and she distributes all the cookies, and then Prabhupada even went on to give Bhagavatam class, so. Again, none of us are these bodies and designations. We're all these, we're pure devotees of Krishna underneath, and the spiritual master, the pure devotee of the caliber of Srila Prabhupada sees that. I was just hearing Praful Mukhi, she was the wife of Gaur Hari who just passed away. And she was like a hippie living in San Francisco, and she, when she met Srila Prabhupada, within the first few seconds, this was her realization. When I met Srila Prabhupada and he looked at me, I could understand that this is the first time that I was truly loved by anyone in my entire life. I had never been loved by anyone until I met Srila Prabhupada. So we have to keep the highest ideal in mind, and then we'll be able to understand everything in the proper context. If you become conscious of me, you will be able to cross over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. But if you act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So let's not be lost, let's be found. I was lost and I was found, save amazing grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Haribol. His Grace Not the Barbara Ki.